The hell, Facebook? There you go. There's one. Oh, there's two. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, your podcast for recovery. Said that really wrong, but who cares? Shut up, me. I know I'm live on my channel. Anyways, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, your recovery focused podcast with your host, Keegan. Now, today I want to bring to you the 3 R's of recovery because, damn, I think we could all use them. And by that, I mean literally all of us, especially some people. But if you're one of those people, I didn't call you out. You just decided that you were one of the people. So, congratulations. Maybe it's something that we can do together. And I'll go ahead and present the 3 R's of recovery that I've come to find really just make recovery the best thing for me. Now, sorry, I've got background music and I don't know if you can hear it through my headphones. I didn't expect it to be this loud for me. Maybe that's what I get for not double checking everything first. So, anyways, the 3 R's of recovery are respond, reflect, refine. Now, why do I say those three in particular? Well, it's easy. Well, maybe not. Well, I say them though because they're almost the opposite of what we tend to do a lot of the time whenever we're just kind of reacting, for lack of a better term, or being responsive to triggers, if we want to say responsive. But that's the thing is that we want to respond, which is usually something that is, well, thoughtful or somewhat thought out. Now, I know that these 3 R's can be easy to just look at and say, yeah, easy enough. Let's just call it what it is. It's but we got to remember to breathe before we do that. So really, you could just say that if you want to think about recovery, just brr, breathe, reflect, breathe, respond, reflect, refine. There we go. Now, responding is something that we do in the moment. And whenever we respond, we're actually thinking about how our actions, how our words, how even our thoughts can impact us and those around us in the moment. And whenever we reflect, we're actually sitting there and thinking back to what we may have been able to do better or how we can change things in the future. And then refine is that action that we do in the future next time that trigger comes about or that situation. So we have a present, later, and then much later kind of thing. But it's kind of tricky because if we leave too much in the past, then we're dwelling and we're not really reflecting. And if we're focusing too much on the future, then we're probably going to be in a lot of anxiety and really just kind of sitting there and paralyzing ourselves because, well, shit. I mean, whenever we don't refine, we usually tend to repeat things. And that's how a lot of us got into the shit in the first place, myself included. And that's the thing is that we just have to do it. And as much as that sucks to hear, if we don't do something different, well, how can we expect anything to be different? And if we're in recovery, everything's got to change to some degree. I'm not saying you have to sit there and throw everything you know out the window. It can be a good start, but at the same time, a lot of us can't do that. I was fortunate enough to really just sit there and have something to give me 9 months of, hey, get your shit together and go think. And little did I know that thinking is one of my biggest problems. If you can relate to that, hit like or subscribe. Who knows? Because this is a recovery journey and it's just going to go all sorts of places. It's going to go forward, backward, up, down, left, right. And then we may revisit some things many different times. And we're going to have a different viewpoint, different perspective on them because that's how healing works. It's not linear. It's not something that's like, all right, and I did this one thing. I am healed. Sweet. Now what? It it doesn't work that way. If you think it does, well, maybe, but not for me. So if it does work for you that way, awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And maybe you can teach me how to make it just linear and forget things because I don't know about you, but those memories are really the worst trigger for me because they're what taught me my experience, right? It's one of those things that I have to sit there and think, if I didn't have my memories, if I didn't have my experiences, who the hell would I be? Would I still be pained on the inside? Would I still be just angry at a lot of different things? Angry at myself, even? I don't know. It's one of those things that I can't answer that question, but I can say that with the 3 hours of recovery, I can do something about my experiences. I can do something about my memories. I can rewrite them to the point to where maybe I'm not the victim anymore. Maybe there were outside circumstances and scenarios that did affect me, and to a point to where it's like there's nothing I could do in the moment. But after that moment has passed is where it falls onto me. It doesn't have to be one of those things that just because XYZ happened, ABC has to follow. It can be X happened and then B followed because of that. And then I decided to switch things up and now we got elemental P in there. And it's like, how does that come about? You respond, reflect, refine. We sit there and we do these three things, and they can actually reshape a whole bunch of different things. So, whenever we're dealing with our reactions, we're very on the dot. We're going, we're fast, we're furious, and we're getting shit done. We're getting her done, buddy. But that's the thing, we can't do that because that's how we hustled. That's how we were to get our fix. That's how we were to even survive sometimes. That's how we were able to do some of the things that got us where we are. Now, there is, again, I talked about maladaptive traits, and those are things that help us get to where we are now. However, a lot of the times, after they've served their purpose, they just really burn us and kind of sucks. So whenever we actually respond, we're taking a moment to say, is this still serving me? Does this reaction deserve it? Does the situation deserve this reaction? Let me rephrase that. And whenever you can say, no, not really, well, what do you want to do about that? That's where reflection comes in. That's where we say, all right, well, this snap back at someone for just saying something doesn't really serve me anymore because I'm not in danger sometimes. And it can even be like, well, maybe I'll upset their feelings to the point to where, like we can say words, but we can't put them back in. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's not to sit there and say, curate everything that you're going to say to where it's inauthentic, but it's just saying, take other people into consideration along with your future self. And that's the biggest part, I think, is the future self aspect, because let's admit to myself, I didn't give a shit about my future self. I thought I was just a dumb goner. Like, why the hell am I even here? I don't have to dive into that, but I'm sure some of you can really relate, and I'm sorry for that. But we're here to change that for ourselves, because working recovery is for ourselves. So if you're doing it for other people, cool, but you have to be selfish with your recovery to a point. You have to be selfish that you want it. You have to be selfish that you want it for your future self. And you have to be selfish that you want it for other people too. It's kind of weird. Life is paradoxical. We'll get into that in the future, but as far as I'm concerned, everything is a fucking paradox. So have fun with that knowledge. Now, whenever we go to refine, it's, well, what are we doing with those two before? And what is it that we can do different? Now, there are things that it's like the refinement can be something really, really small, as in taking a breath before we respond. That, again, breathing is a huge thing. And I genuinely believe that we are different with every single breath that we take, which is why it's really paramount to sit there and just, something triggers me. If I sit there and I react, I'm not taking that breath. I'm not taking that half a second, 2 seconds maybe, to just breathe and compose myself. Now, if you don't want to say compose yourself because it sounds too musical, you can say combobulate. I need to recombobulate myself. So reach that form of combobulation and then proceed. So, what we can do with this whole aspect of respond, reflect, refine is to literally rewrite very small things that eventually turn to the really big things. Because I mean, there's not many times that the exact trigger that caused the trauma comes back around. Now, there are, don't get me wrong, depending on what your triggers are and your traumas are, they can be literally just going into a gas station could maybe trigger some people, like if you have food or alcohol addiction or tobacco addiction. Oh, it's right there in front of you. Like, what do you do? Well, you can respond by going, yeah, that stuff's over there. I don't need to go over there. So, okay. And now you're going to do something else. So you've already done the reflection in the moment as well, and you've refined it by changing what you're doing. Now, if you find yourself going in that direction and starting to sweat and your heart starting to palpitate and stuff like that because your body's just reacting to what it knows. Hang on, I need to turn this music down just a little bit more for myself. Golly, sorry if I've been yelling into this. I am so sorry. It's good music. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but yeah. So one of the things though is that our bodies tend to really just they react. They react a lot faster than our brains can really keep up with, or at least our conscious thoughts. Our subconscious is our body, and our subconscious is usually 10 steps ahead of my conscious thinking. And I'm saying that because there's many times where it's like if I sit there and if I respond, I reflect and I refine what I'm doing, I find that I'm actually doing what my body's been wanting me to do for a little while. And I'm just kind of sitting there going, nah, I know better. I know better. My experience has taught me this works. And again, maybe it did in the past. Maybe it's not really serving me anymore. Maybe it's not even serving those around me. And it's something that's incredibly selfish. And again, recovery is selfish, but it's also unselfish, selfless. You know what I mean? So we just have to sit there and reflect on everything that we do. But let me just expound on this real quick. Reflection is not dwelling in the past. Reflection is not going coulda, woulda, shoulda. Now you can ask those, but just try to ask them one time per situation. Like, what could I have done instead? What should I have done instead? And then don't dwell on it. Whenever we dwell, that's where a lot of those negative emotions kind of start going and going and going. And then eventually, if you're like me, start to judge, criticize, and eventually shame myself for even having a weird thought. Now, that's another thing. We can't shame ourselves for things that we did wrong, quote unquote. And even if we do, we still have to learn to forgive ourselves and just try our best to, well, not do that thing again. And again, triggers are things that just go, sorry, hang on. And we don't really always recognize that we got triggered, but that's why we have to breathe. Now, there's something that is really, really cool. Our diaphragms hold a lot of trauma. It sucks, really sucks. So, if you're like me and you find yourself holding your breath for some reason, like you're going around, you're doing your thing, and it's like your chest is like kind of tight, but you're breathing fine, you may just be accidentally holding on to the last little bit of breath every time you breathe. And it's one of those that if you're also like me, you have a big lung capacity, so it doesn't really bother you. So why should it? But if we don't allow ourselves that full belly breath, then our body is getting that signal that we're not safe. And that's the biggest thing we have to remind our subconscious of, that we're safe. We may not be calm, but we try to be calm and we're divinely protected. Now, that may sound a little woo woo for some of us, but that's what I've learned to kind of do. One of my things in my head that would be on repeat all the time is I love blah, I love blah, I love blah, because I was so scared whenever I was growing up. That was my mindset that kept me going was I try to love literally anything and everything else besides myself. Now, maybe I could flip it and say I love myself enough to blank, but that's really, really hard for me to still do. So I'm trying to tell myself I am calm, I'm safe, I'm divinely protected, or anything like that. Or more specifically, and the Morrigan walks with me. So it's weird to say out loud. It's weird to even think it in my head, but it's forming a rut, and not even a rut. It's forming new neural pathways that are different than what I'm used to. And those slight differences give me that oh so little bit of a nanosecond to change what could be a response, a reaction to a trigger. I almost caught myself there. Almost slipped there. Sorry. Caught myself almost slipping. And I mean, recovery is hard. It's fucking difficult. I Anyone that's walking that path, whether it be a day, 2 days, a month, a week, 2 years, 15 months, whatever that is, and so on and so forth, a year and 3 months, we can sit there and say that it's always changing, just like life. No matter what we do, we have to be able to respond differently. We have to be able to reflect on what we did versus what we want to do, and then refine our next action. It doesn't have to be in the moment necessarily. It can be something that you are in the shower and you're just like, man, that one conversation with so and so really pissed me off, blah, 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 blah. And before you start getting into that imaginary argument and winning it, just kind of think, why am I trying to read this other person's mind and or reactions to what I'm trying to do? If you're like me, that's how a lot of shitty situations can either come about, maybe they even get avoided, but also at the same time, it's how I found myself going into a shell, was trying to read everyone's mind reactions to things that hadn't even happened yet and responding to those and reacting to those, I should say. But I can change that. I can change that whenever I reflect on things that I want to change and why I want to change them. And then I can refine it in the next moment. But I have to remember to respond first. And that's the fucking hard part. Is just sitting there going like, all right, I got triggered. Now what? Just fucking breathe. Just and breathe out. Okay. Breathe out. That is the best way that we can sit there and actually make our bodies feel safe in the moment, is that breath out. Breathing in is getting our bodies amped up. It's getting it ready for action. It is getting it ready to take on the world, because our bodies run on oxygen and a lot of other things that go on with that whole process. But essentially, it's increasing our heart rate, our heartbeat, so on and so forth. And so, a breath out is actually telling the signals subconsciously that, you know what, maybe we can actually look at this a little bit different and respond differently. Now, again, this is all great to hear, but whenever we're in the moment, like I said, it's fucking difficult. We have to be vigilant. We have to remind ourselves. So maybe that's another R in recovery. Remember, remember to respond, reflect, refine. So maybe it's 4 R's in recovery. So the 5 R's of recovery. And then the last one is recover. We don't sit there and not change something and not recover. I don't care what it is you're recovering from. So long as you're not doing the thing that you're trying to get away from, I think you're doing better. And on the flip side of that, even if you're sitting there and you're trying to uh not go cold turkey, what is the word I'm looking for? Brain. Um it's a dwindle. That's not the right word. It kind of is. If you're just trying to actually like reduce the amount of whatever it is that you're doing, it's still a form of recovery. But that's the thing, is that how is it affecting you, and how does that affected version of you react or respond in the world? Now, that's up to debate on whether that is something that's good, but I think if you're trying and your intentions are pure and they're as best as they can be in the moment, then that's still a form of recovery. It may not be the best, And a lot of us, or especially the people around us, want the best for us, and they're going to want big changes because that is how a lot of us see the world. It's how we've also been conditioned. We've been conditioned to say, oh, with technology, I press a button, things happen. That should be people too. I tell a person to do this, they should do this instantly. And so calm down. Also, never tell me to calm down. If you tell me to calm down, I'm going to get fucking pissed. So if you want me to get really mad, just tell me to calm down. Everything's fine. So don't say that to anyone that's going through it. Like, I know it sounds good, but no, at least for me. So what can we say instead? We can just say, hey, let's take a breath real quick, or just, and even that may piss them off. And a lot of times, if someone's triggered, there's not a lot of sense talking to them. But that's whenever, if you're not the one that's triggered, you have a lot more power, at least over yourself. So we can at least sit there and say, even if the outside circumstance or situation that I'm in is not favorable, even if it's not something that I can work with a whole bunch, what I got in here is under my control. And ain't no one telling me shit. So, yeah, fun. It kind of sucks though, because that does mean what I feel can be my responsibility, but it's how I present those feelings to the world that truly is. So whenever I respond, I'm trying to maybe, I don't know, uh, take your pick. Why would we want to respond instead of react? A lot of the time it's to save connection. It's to not burn a bridge. It's to not harm our future selves. And I think that's enough to kind of get my brain going like, oh yeah, that's right, because the more I'm in recovery, the more I'm actually trying to get out of my shell and stuff. And that's where I find a lot of really good magic is actually connection. And holy shit, let me tell you, it's really hard whenever you put Patrick Star to shame. And what I mean by that is living under a rock. If I had to say that, it's not funny, whatever. But that's the thing. I've I've been so accustomed to being a hermit that connection is one of the really hard things for me to do. I may have friends online and stuff, but in person, big whopping zero. So it doesn't really bother me too much. But at the same time, it is one of those things that I do see where I could improve my recovery and I could do a lot of different things because it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know a lot of the time. There's a lot of power in that. And if you're looking for jobs, that's one of the better things to do too, is just know people that work where you want to work and they'll probably help you get in. So screw CVs and resumes and all that bullshit. Start working on your connections. So, um, I'm trying to keep this one short. We are near the 30-minute mark. So, I just want to say thank you for hanging out on a Friday evening and maybe wherever it is that you're watching or listening from in the future. Thank you for just spending a little bit of time with me and trying to figure out what the three R's, maybe four or five, of recovery really are. And this list can go on. I'm sure this is just something that kind of came to mind. And it was like, hey, bloop. Like, huh, three R's of recovery. Okay. So again, it's respond instead of react, reflect instead of dwell, and refine instead of repeat. So we can do a lot of really cool things whenever we do those three because you never know what we may have been shorting ourselves by acting in the moment, acting out of triggers, acting out of our traumas, acting out of our wounds. A lot of the times it still hurts whenever we get triggered. Whenever I get triggered, I know it still hurts. Again, my body physically reacts to triggers. And I have to remind myself that I'm safe, I'm calm, maybe, or want to be calm, and I'm divinely protected. The Morrigan walks with me. So, like, what are we trying to do here? Me. And that's it. Like, what am I trying to get out of this situation? What am I trying to do with this whole thing? And it's like, well, maybe I don't know. And that's okay too. I don't have to think my way out of situations anymore because step one tells me that I was doing something wrong. And really, For me, what that is that I was thinking way too fucking much. So I need to actually start feeling. I need to start acting out for my heart and not my brain so much, because my heart is pretty damn strong and it knows a lot. And at the same time, it can teach me a lot if I listen to it. But thinking and listening are not the same, as much as I'd like for them to be. So it's not. And if you can prove me otherwise, please do, because I want to know how to do those without accidentally shaming myself for just trying something. And that's the thing. We can't do that to ourselves in recovery. If we shame ourselves in recovery, it ain't gonna work, bud. And I'm saying that from experience. I'm saying that from trying to get sober, from being in the middle of addiction and going like, why can't I get sober? Why can't I stop drinking? Why can't I stop this? It's because I would shame myself into trying to stop it. Yeah, because I'm a bad person. Blah, 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 blah. No, I may have made bad decisions or incorrect decisions. I may have drifted off course, so on and so forth, but I can respond differently next time. I can reflect on how I want to respond differently next time, and I can refine my next response instead of reacting. So I just want to say thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And I mean, give the like button a hit, maybe a subscribe, leave a comment if you found if you found this episode somewhat helpful. Then just let me know what you thought about the 3 R's. What letter would you add to recovery? And what does it mean for you? And I just hope that you have a wonderful time with this world right now that we're in. Holy shit. Our mental health is probably all tanked at the moment. And a lot of us are reacting to everything. And can't blame you. It is something to help us survive. But I think the real power comes whenever we can take that half a second to take a breath and then go from there. And whenever we're grounded, whenever we're centered, whenever we're as calm as we can be, then that shakes a lot of people to their cores some weird way and just kind of gives you an upper edge. So do with that do with that what you will. Fuck that up too. Anyway, so we're out of here. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday evening and whenever it is that you may be listening or watching. And we will see y'all in the next episode. Oh, but don't forget, you got to love yourself. Try to love others if you can, but you got to love yourself first as best as you can. And if you're having some mental health crisis, you can dial 988 or text 741-741. And if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can dial the Trevor Project up in Canada, and they'll be able to help you much more than 988 will, because, well, it's a bunch of shitbags all of a sudden. Who knows? But I know, not necessarily. You know what I mean. Ugh. So with that being said, we'll catch y'all next week. Actually, we'll have another episode soon, but every time I say that, guess what happens? It doesn't happen. So we'll just see y'all next time we see y'all. And until then, much love.